is a task or an assignment that helps your organization, but doesn't help you advance your career. So it will be work that isn't core to your job description. It is often work that is done behind the scene, and it is work that rarely uses your specialized skills. So you can think of it within an organization or in a corporation as being often non-revenue generating work. So preparing slides for somebody else's presentation, taking notes at a meeting and writing a meeting summary, onboarding someone and helping them get into the organization is also a good example of non-promotable tasks. That is exactly why we started the research that is the foundation of the book, because you could imagine that there are many different reasons why women are doing this work. It could be that they really enjoy doing the work. It could be that they care more about getting it done, or that they're better at it. What we did was that we ran a number of experiments to try to figure out, are these the reasons why women are doing it? And what we found was that women are not doing this work because they really enjoy it or care more about doing the work. And oftentimes not because they're any better at it. Rather, it's because we all have the expectation that women will do this work. And that collective expectation is held by managers and people who are asking them to do this work. So managers are 50% more likely to ask women to do non-promotable work. And when women are asked, they're 50% more likely to say yes to these requests to do non-promotable work. They are asked more, they say yes more when they're asked, and they will even volunteer more. So this collective expectation that they take on this work is why they end up with the lion's share of the work that will not help them get promoted in their organization. We all more or less expect women to say yes to this work. In fact, this expectation that women will say yes to the work means that managers are 50% more likely to ask women when it comes to work that nobody wants to do. This expectation that women will say yes makes them say yes more frequently than the men. In fact, women have internalized this expectation that they should say yes and that everybody else expects them to say yes. All these requests and yeses from the women result in women having a much larger load of non-promotable work and not having sufficient time to do the promotable work, so that when it comes to promotion, they really can't compete. And it helps explain why we continue to see women falling behind men when it comes to advancement. We think the first step in this whole process is to bring awareness to this issue of women doing more non-promotable work and it hurting them and the organization. And once you get that awareness, it also helps you understand why it is that we haven't made a lot of progress on gender equality over the past 20, 30 years, despite the fact that we've been working so hard to try to really equalize the playing field and give people equal opportunities. So there has been sort of a eureka moment for a lot of women that suddenly they have a word to attach to all the work that has been making them miserable. From men, they intriguingly have also recognized the problem. So many men have come up to us after seminars to say, you know, that I recognize my spouse in this, I recognize my daughters in this, can I please get some material to share with them? So both men and women have recognized this problem. What's really exciting is that organizations also recognize the problem. So while many organizations have been aware that they're giving more of the non-promotable work to women, they have not been aware of the magnitude of the problem. Understanding that if you put all the different assignments in sort of a continuum ranking from the most likely to help you get noticed and advanced to the least likely, they have been shocked to see how much of the least promotable work has been assigned to women. So we worked with one organization who suspected that there might be an issue, but what we found in looking at all of their billable hour data was that the women in that organization were spending 200 more hours than the men per year on non-promotable work. That is a magnitude that far exceeded anything that they had expected. What was all the more disturbing was that this difference wasn't just something that they saw among their junior females, but also among their senior females. So it is a problem that is persistent across all ranks, all industries, all organizations. This is not a fix the women problem where women should just start saying no. Organizations don't need more naysayers, they need more yay-sayers. As long as we hold these collective expectations, there's only so much that each individual woman can do. Whereas the organization can do a lot of things. They can bring awareness to the problem so that we recognize it, that we start paying attention to who's doing what, so that we don't just go to the woman every time we have to solve a quick problem. Another thing that organizations can do is to get rid of the practices that increase the load of non-promotable work that goes to women. So for example, in my own institution, where we often would ask for volunteers to take meeting notes and write meeting summaries, we no longer do that. We just put names in a hat, draw out a name at random. It's so obviously fair that nobody objects. So these small changes can really help the organization improve the allocation of work. Understanding and documenting who's doing what will shed light on some of the crazy things that your most talented employees are doing just because it somehow ended up on their desk. This is not a problem women can fix this on their own. They can, sort of seed the change within the organization by bringing awareness to the problem, but ultimately it's up to organizations to lift this burden, and it is in the interest of organizations to do so. The book was started with a club that I and 3 other professors joined 12 years ago because we were so overwhelmed with how much we were working and how we didn't feel like we were spending time on the work that really mattered to us. So we started on this journey to try to get control over our work lives. And we started meeting monthly to talk about all the requests that we were getting and how we responded to it. And gradually, as we were doing this, we started building what we call our no muscle. In order to take on work, you had to say what you were going to give up in return because we all have so many hours in the day. So then thinking about how to say no in a strategic way that didn't result in backlash, because the challenge with everyone expecting women to say yes is that it's risky to say no. But as we were building up sort of our no muscles, part of doing that involved thinking about how to respond to requests. So when somebody comes and asks you something, explain what else you have on your plate, explain what the trade-offs are, explain that you are not going to be able to spend time on another far more important task, but also thinking about how you can negotiate the ask. If I take on this non-promotable work, can you relieve me of some of the other non-promotable work that I'm doing? Are there ways of saying, I will take on the work now, but I will not take it on next year? Can we take turns? Can we split up the task so that I take this little portion that is well aligned with my skill and that I can parlay later on in my career and have somebody else do the rest? So gradually it's got easier to say no. We became more strategic in the way that we said no. So our own personal work-work balance got better. The disturbing part and the reason why we ultimately started doing the research was that the work that we got rid of, unfortunately, by and large, was given to other women. women are given a lion's share of the non-promotable work, it unfortunately turns out that women of color and less privileged are given an even larger share of the non-promotable work. Oftentimes, because we have even greater expectations that they should be taking on the work, which is disturbing, and that is precisely why organizations are the ones who have to start paying attention to this. Another reason why we end up seeing women of color getting a very large share of this non-promotable work is because we engage in what you can characterize as cultural taxation. We think that women should represent their personal demographic. Where I am, we are very eager to have equal representation of men and women on committees. We're very eager to have representation across all races on each committee, which is a very noble objective. The challenge is that we don't have equal representation on our faculty. So when we put women on half the committees and we only have 25% women, we are effectively putting a 3 times larger burden on women in terms of the committee work that they have to do. Now that's for women. Now, if you can imagine being a faculty member of color where you're severely underrepresented and you somehow assign a faculty member of color to all these committees on diversity, equity, and inclusion so that they can represent, that's going to give a much, much greater load to faculty of color. So unfortunately, the same thing is happening in a lot of organizations. And part of what we are arguing in the book is that we need to trade off against other non-promotable work. So really thinking about everyone getting sort of an equal opportunity to demonstrate their talent on the promotable work and redistributing the other non-promotable work. These are the employees that we really want to succeed in our organizations. We worked hard to recruit them. If we're going to retain them, we need to give them the same purpose and opportunity within the organization as everyone else. I and my co-authors have been concerned about gender equality for many, many years and have been trying to figure out what we possibly can do to improve the opportunities that are given to women. What's exciting about this work is that we really think that can finally lift the anchor off of women so that they can rise. We have been looking at negotiation. We've been telling women to lean in. We've been telling them to be more confident. We've been talking about how they're not competitive. It's very hard to do all those things if you are held back by doing all this non-promotable work. So the reason why we wrote this book is that we are determined to spread the word about this work so that we, for once, can get to the equality that we've been aiming for all along.